So welcome to Alliant International University. Today we're going to offer you an opportunity to have a brief overview of what it entails to do your FAFSA. And if you would like to start with us, we'll begin with the generic overview of FAFSA. And if you haven't done already so, you might want to go to www.fafsa.gov to get an overview of the process. And we will start first with an overview of what are the things you should be doing to get your FAFSA started. So first of all, to get your application started, you need to get a PIN, and that's a different website. So please visit www.pin.edu.gov. It takes a couple of days for that to process. You might want to do that as soon as possible. Once you get your PIN, then you continue to the next phase of this session, which is to start your FAFSA application. So very important things for you to consider as you do your application. Make sure you have a PIN ready to go. Make sure your name appears exactly as your high school transcript. This could really delay the processing of your financial aid at your school of choice because they will not have they'll have a mismatch and they won't be able to find your information to be able to do your package. Really important, make sure your social security also matches your high school transcript, because sometimes there's a typo or different numbers, so make sure everything is as accurate as possible so it doesn't detain your processing of your financial aid, whether it's at the school site or through the FAFSA process. If your parents live in Mexico, make sure when you do file your FAFSA, you convert the pesos for dollar amounts as you file your FAFSA in this process. And make sure you use the parents' taxes claiming on your return you have lived with for at least 12 months. And last but not least, if your parents send their taxes, this process is even more simpler for you and the parents, student and parent. By February 2nd, the IRS retrieval tool will be available online. So what that means is when you do your FAFSA, you can now upload directly all your tax information without having to enter it piece by piece. And it's probably the easiest part of the process that is now in the FAFSA application. So important, why is financial aid important to you as a student? Financial aid is a process done by the federal government to help students figure out, students and parents, what is the cost of attending college, what is the availability of funding, and also what is the expected family contribution. And these items are based on several questions that are in your FAFSA application, but most importantly, it allows you to understand what is the cost of going to college and what is the expected family contribution. So there's a couple ways to pay for school. I think most important is to understand what is the process, and the first and foremost is how much is it going to cost to go to school. There's a lot of factors in this place, and I think it's important to look at these factors as you're making your college choices. One is college tuition, the other one's fees and books, housing if you decide to live on campus. Usually meals are included in the housing package. Transportation, are you going to take public transportation, drive to school, commute to school? And on the average, some schools average about $25,000 a year. Now, usually a family who is working class up to middle class may end up paying about $5,000. And that's an average. Every family situation is different and every expected family contribution is different. But we try to kind of give you an example what would be an expected family contribution. And what that means is what the government feels that the family can support the student in their decision to go to college. So EFC is really important. A low-income family who's on state aid or food stamps usually has an EFC of 0, which means that they maximize the amount of eligible aid for these students based on the family income, and that's a really good package for a student to have. Finally, when we think about FAFSA, what does FAFSA offer a family and a student? I think the most important, it allows the application process to open the student to a variety of aid packaging for them. First and foremost, scholarships from the institution, including private donor scholarships that are excellent to help match the need of the student and the family, grants, loans, and work study. And I think it's important to understand that different forms of grants, and grants means it's free money, that's a different form of a scholarship. Loans are usually money that is borrowed and paid back. And the last but not least is work study. I always tell parents that FAFSA is important because it allows, if anything, an opportunity for loans at low interest rate that could be consolidated over a period of time, and the parents don't have to start making payments right away. A private loan lender, like a bank or a credit card, not only is the interest rate a lot higher, but you have to start paying payments right away. And I think it's also important to understand that a student will get a package depending on the cost of the school. So if they go to community college where it's $46 a unit, they're going to get a lot less money than if they were to go to a UC. So the package will differ based on the institution the student decides to attend. So it's really important to look at these aspects, because sometimes parents feel that what a package a student got in a community college is not different from one four-year school. Tuition costs are higher and costs of attendance higher, so they do vary, and the packages will also vary with the FAFSA information. Some of the things to consider is books for the students, transportation. Some schools require that you also have health insurance, so it's really recommendable for parents to include their son or daughter in their own insurance package, which is usually cheaper for the student. And now with the National Healthcare Plan, the student can be under the parents' insurance as long as they're in college and enroll full-time until the age of 24. And so when we talked about ways to pay for college, cost of attendance, minus financial aid, and then there's an opportunity to also apply for loans under the Parent Plus loan, and that's at 6.41% interest rate. So there are other ways that parents can borrow money at a low interest and support their son or daughter in their educational goals. And earlier I talked about what are the forms of aid. So here's an opportunity for me to be able to provide some more in-depth opportunity of what each of these forms of aid mean. And also for you to pay attention when you get offer letters from the Office of Financial Aid for your son or daughter to look specifically where some of these terminology fall into your offer package. So the first and foremost is grants. It's usually based on the need. The most popular one for students is Pell Grant. So you have an EFC of 0. On the average, it's about $5,600 a year, and it's based per semester, so it's divided by 2. Chafee Grant is usually for students who've been in a foster system or have claimed independence. And then Board of Governors Grant, that is usually at the community college system. It usually pays for tuition. So if you're on food stamps, low income, any form of government assistance, usually you get an automatic waiver for BOG, you don't pay tuition at the community college. And then last but not least, and I believe it's one of the most important, wonderful initiatives we have in the state of California for California residents, is the Cal Grant. So if a student at the end of their junior year has a 3.0 and above, they get the maximum Cal Grant eligibility that can be renewed for 4 years, and that is free money. And it's really important that students keep their grades up and also maintain full-time enrollment to continue qualifying for that grant that does not have to be paid back. Once they qualify, as long as they stay enrolled full-time and keep good grades, it's renewable for up to 4 years. Under work study, it's the best way for students to work on their campus, plus it's the best way of retention for many students. It really provides an opportunity for them to feel connected to the institution, provide access to mentorship and guidance in the school process. There are 2 types of loans available for students: subsidized and unsubsidized. These are loans that are offered by the federal government under the Department of Education to help a student pay for their education. And these have caps depending on number of units enrolled in the institution. But they're very low interest, and it's the best way of providing support for a student to succeed in college. These must be paid back, so we always encourage students to only borrow as needed, and to be able to consider that that's part of their responsibility as they finish a degree to pay back the money they borrowed to continue their education. And last but not least, scholarships. There's free money, but these scholarships have specific criteria. It could be that the student has a specific academic degree objective. It could be their community service. It could be their leadership on campus or off campus. They're both on-campus scholarships that are usually funding that is donated by alumni who want to support student success, or it could be an off-campus nonprofit agency that wants to help students in the community. So as we start this process, known as the FAFSA, I think it's really important to know which are their school codes for financial aid. For us, and specifically, Alliant International University, our code is 011117. And now, through FAFSA, you can list up to 10 schools of your choice in this process, which means these 10 schools will get your Federal Financial Aid Report, your SAR Student Aid Commission report, to be able to process an offer letter if you're admitted to that school of choice. The most important thing to consider is that you always want to list a California school, obviously, and that you want to indicate what is your choice of housing options. Do you live on campus, do you live with your parents, or are you going to live off campus? Because your package will vary depending on your housing options as well. So there's 4 sections to the FAFSA. The first and foremost is the information section. So make sure that you always make sure your first name and last name are fully completed, your social security number is completed and it matches your high school transcript, that you have your U.S. citizenship marked, or your Alliant registration number. If you're currently in the AB 540 or Dreamer process, we encourage you to use the California Student Aid Commission form for FAFSA, not the federal government form. And to make sure that you mark your marital status. Under the same section as a male, you will need to do the selective service. That's one of the requirements, that you mark if you ever have a drug conviction, and also complete your parents' level of education. Under section 2, this is a very important process, especially for those students who are dependent on the ward, or since age 13 both parents were deceased. This allows you to become independent or dependent status of the students, and it varies on how much information is needed from your parents in this process. So please pay attention to this process, because if you don't mark any of these boxes, you don't have to provide parent. If you mark one of these boxes, you don't have to provide parent information. Section 3, I think this is one of the most important pieces of information that helps provide data to FAFSA to be able to estimate your funding eligibility. So providing your parents full information, both mother and father, if they completed their tax return or not. And remember, some of this process will be eliminated if you do the IRS retrieval, which will automatically put all the data in for you. Section 3 continues. Again, I can mention, if your family receives food stamps, supplemental security income, assistance for needy families, it's very important to mark these items. It allows the process to be clear in terms of what are your needs as a family. And then also, as you do the taxes, if you do IRS retrieval, some of this stuff will fall into place. But if you're getting any of the tax credits or child support paid, make sure you answer all the questions as appropriate. Under supplemental information, again, very basic information, but it's very important that you're as clear as possible in these questions, especially in the number of family members that live in the household. I want to make sure that that is accurately and represents exactly how many people live in the home, as FAFSA estimates the number of people in the home and the income. It takes a lot of factors into place, and this could really affect your overall package. Last but not least, I think one of the other areas that sometimes we miss an opportunity in terms of higher education is to let students know that Cal Grant process is the same process as the FAFSA, yet for some high schools it's going to be different. And so we always encourage students to do the FAFSA no later than March 2nd, because Cal Grant pulls the data to evaluate your package between January 1st and March 2nd. So the earlier you do your FAFSA, the better chances you are getting a Cal Grant or even competing for a competitive Cal Grant. And the Cal Grant is based on your grade point average at the end of your junior year, or at the end of 24 more units at the community college system that you can then compete for a competitive Cal Grant. One of the great advantages if you're a student who graduated from the Sweetwater Unified High School District is that they automatically submit your grade point average to the California Aid Student Commission. So you don't need to go to your counselor to ask for a form that they can put in your GPA and send it directly to them. So if you're not in Sweetwater District and then you're the other district in California, please go to your high school counselor for what is known as Cal Grant Grade Verification Form and have them submit that for you. It's one paragraph of information you need to provide. You sign it and they send it in for you, and then that makes you eligible for the Cal Grant competitive process. What to expect once you're done with FAFSA is, first and foremost, once you complete the application online, save it and go to what is known as the confirmation page. At this point, the system will ask you for a PIN. Enter your PIN and press enter. What that will do for you is it will give you a confirmation page. Make sure you print it. That's your full documentation that you completed the financial aid application process. If you haven't gotten to this level, then you have not been able to complete the whole process, which means your application is incomplete. So make sure you go through the whole process till you get your print confirmation page, then you know you completed your FAFSA. Within 3 to 5 days, you'll get what is known as the student aid report. If you don't see it in your email, check your spam box. Sometimes it goes there, and unspam it and then review it for accuracy. Remember, if there are changes in your information you originally submitted, please make sure you correct it as soon as possible, because it can affect your aid package. And last but not least, for questions about financial aid here at Alliant International University, you can call our financial aid office at 858-635-4700 or email directly our financial aid counselors at financialaid@alliant.edu. If you have any further questions, please let us know. We'll be happy to help you in your application process at Alliant International University.